Maya's apartment was a disaster. There were clothes on the floor, 3 coffee cups on her desk, unopened mail by the door, and a pile of dishes in the sink that had somehow become part of the kitchen's permanent architecture. She was exhausted, not dramatically exhausted, not the kind of exhaustion that looks beautiful in black and white photographs. She was simply too tired to finish the things she had promised herself she would finish. But before she allowed herself to rest, Maya decided to post a picture. She pushed the laundry out of the frame. She moved the unopened mail. She replaced the stained coffee cup with a clean ceramic mug she almost never used. Then she lit a candle, opened the curtains, adjusted the blanket, and took 26 photos. None of them felt effortless enough. 47 minutes later, Maya uploaded the final image. Soft light, a clean table, a warm drink, a perfectly folded blanket. The caption read, "Quiet Sunday reset." People loved it. They called her peaceful, disciplined, inspiring. And while the notifications appeared on her screen, Maya sat in the exact same room, surrounded by everything the photograph had been designed to hide. She was not tired because her life was messy. She was tired because no one was allowed to know. And that raises an uncomfortable question. What happens when looking okay becomes more important than actually being okay? Because Maya's photograph was not really a lie. The candle was real. The mug was real. The sunlight was real. But the feeling was manufactured. And manufacturing a feeling is work. We usually think of social media as something we do during breaks from our real jobs. But for many people, maintaining an online identity has quietly become a second job. A job with no office hours, no salary, and no moment when you are officially allowed to stop. You monitor your face, you edit your emotions, you predict how strangers might interpret a sentence, you remove the wrong objects from the background. You turn personal experiences into stories with clean beginnings, meaningful lessons, and emotionally satisfying endings. Even when you are not posting, part of your mind is still working. Would this make a good photo? Does this fit the version of me people expect? If I share this, will I look weak? If I do not share it, did it really matter? At some point, you stop simply living an experience. You begin watching yourself have it. You become the person in the room and the invisible audience judging the person in the room. The audience may not actually be there, but the performance continues. Maya noticed this during a weekend trip. She had saved for months to visit a place she had always wanted to see, but when she arrived, she did not feel present. She felt responsible for finding the right angle. Responsible for proving the trip was worth the money, responsible for creating evidence that she was happy. At one point, she stood in front of a beautiful view, irritated because the wind kept ruining her hair. She did not think, "This is incredible." She thought, "I cannot use this." That is the strange psychological cost of turning your life into a display. You start evaluating moments before you have finished experiencing them. And when every experience must become proof of something, even pleasure begins to feel like a task. The perfect morning must prove that you are disciplined. The vacation must prove that you are adventurous. The promotion must prove that you are successful. The workout must prove that you are committed. Even rest must prove that you understand self-care. You cannot just lie on the couch. You have to call it recovery. You cannot simply eat breakfast. It has to become a morning ritual. You cannot feel sad without eventually turning the sadness into a lesson. And slowly, the version of yourself you created to inspire you becomes a supervisor. At first, your ideal self whispers, "You could become this person." Later, it demands, "You must continue appearing to be this person." That difference matters. An ideal can guide you, but an identity you are forced to protect can imprison you. Maya had spent years building a version of herself who appeared organized, calm, emotionally intelligent, and always one step away from becoming her best self. People admired that version. The problem was that Maya had never actually met her. She could imitate her, photograph her, write captions in her voice, but she could never relax around her. Because the moment Maya had a bad week, skipped a routine, ate badly, cried without learning anything, or allowed the apartment to become chaotic, she felt as if she had violated a contract. Not with her friends, not with her followers, with the person she had taught everyone to expect. So she developed a rule. She would never share a struggle while she was still inside it. She would wait until she had recovered. Then she would package the experience into something useful. She would say, "Here is what burnout taught me. 3 lessons I learned from failure, how I found myself again." The pain could appear only after it had become respectable, only after it had a structure. Only after it could help her look wise. But real life does not always deliver its lessons on schedule. Sometimes you are not ready to explain what happened. Sometimes you do not know what you learned. Sometimes the story has no ending yet, and this is where the distance begins. People may know what happened to you, but they do not know what it felt like while it was happening. They see the scar after it has healed. They never see the wound. Then one Sunday evening, the performance broke. Maya had planned to film a reset video, the kind with clean counters, folded clothes, fresh groceries, and soft music playing over images of a life returning to order. But the washing machine stopped working. She spilled coffee across the table. Then she received a message from work that turned a difficult week into a worse one, and while the camera was still recording, Maya sat on the floor and cried, not gracefully, not silently. She cried with her shoulders folded forward and one hand covering her face. After a few minutes, she looked toward the camera. She should have turned it off. Instead, she said, I do not know how people keep up with all of this. She paused. I do not think I am keeping up at all. That was it. No lesson, no uplifting conclusion, no list of strategies, just a person admitting that the life she had been presenting was heavier than it looked. Maya almost deleted the footage. Then before she could think too carefully, she posted part of it. She put her phone face down and went to sleep, convinced that she had made a mistake. The next morning, the video had hundreds of comments, but the comments were not mocking her. One person wrote, I thought everyone else had figured life out except me. Another wrote, this is the first thing I have seen today that did not make me feel behind. Someone else said, thank you for not turning this into advice. That last comment stayed with her, because Maya suddenly understood the difference between being admired and being recognized. When she posted the perfect photograph, people admired the image. When she posted the unfinished truth, people recognized the feeling. Admiration says, I want what you have. Recognition says, I know what that feels like. Admiration can increase status, but recognition reduces distance. And for a growing number of people, distance has become exhausting. For years, online culture trained us to look upward, at better homes, better bodies, better careers, better mornings, better relationships, better versions of adulthood. The unspoken promise was that aspiration would motivate us. Sometimes it did. But aspiration has a shadow. When you spend enough time looking at lives that appear more organized than yours, inspiration can quietly become evidence. Evidence that you are behind, evidence that you are failing, evidence that everyone else has received an instruction manual that somehow never reached you. This is why ordinary, imperfect content can feel unexpectedly powerful. A cluttered kitchen can say, you are not uniquely broken. A failed routine can say, discipline is not a permanent personality trait. An awkward confession can say, other people also struggle to explain what they feel. The mess itself is not the source of comfort. The reduced psychological distance is. Perfection says, look at me. Authenticity says, you are not alone. This cultural shift is sometimes described as a move from aspiration toward proximity. People still enjoy beauty. They still enjoy talent, ambition, design, and transformation. But they increasingly want those things without being asked to believe that another person's life is permanently complete. They do not only want creators who stand above them and offer instructions. They want people who sometimes stand beside them and admit confusion. That desire becomes especially strong when maintaining your own image has begun to exhaust you. There are a few signs this may already be happening. The first sign is that you experience moments through the eyes of an imaginary audience. You choose the cafe based on how it photographs. You arrange the book before you read it. You adjust your desk before you begin working. You think about how the moment will look before you ask how it feels. The second sign is that rest must always be justified. Doing nothing makes you anxious unless you can rename it. Recovery, healing, resetting, intentional slowness. The language sounds healthy, but sometimes it is still performance. You are not resting. You are producing a socially acceptable image of rest. The third sign is that you hide problems until they can become lessons. You do not allow yourself to say, I am lost. You wait until you can say, I was lost, and here is what I discovered. This protects your image, but it can also leave you emotionally isolated during the exact period when you most need connection. The fourth sign is that compliments make you feel lonelier. Someone says you always have everything together, and instead of feeling proud, you feel a small wave of panic, because you know the compliment is based on incomplete information. They are praising the character. You are carrying the person. The fifth sign is fear of being exposed. Not exposed as dangerous or dishonest, exposed as ordinary. You fear that one unflattering photograph, one failed week, one emotional reaction, or one messy room will change the way people see you. And when being perceived as human starts to feel like a threat, the image is no longer serving you. You are serving the image. But there is another side to this. Showing the mess is not automatically healthy. As soon as authenticity becomes desirable, it can become another performance. The casual photograph may be taken 40 times. The messy bedroom may be arranged to look accidentally chaotic. The vulnerable confession may be selected because vulnerability performs well. Even saying, I do not care what people think, can become a carefully managed identity built around proving how little you care. This is the authenticity trap. A person can share private details and still be performing. Another person can reveal almost nothing and still live honestly. Privacy is not dishonesty. Beauty is not dishonesty. Editing is not dishonesty. Authenticity does not mean publishing your entire emotional life for strangers to inspect. It means your expression does not repeatedly betray your actual experience. It means the distance between what you show and what you believe does not become so large that you disappear inside it. There are 3 questions that can help you notice that distance. First, would I still choose this if no one could see it? Would you still visit this place, wear this outfit, buy this object, follow this routine? The answer does not have to be yes every time. Humans are social. We naturally care about how we are perceived, but the question reveals how often your audience is making decisions for you. Second, am I sharing to connect, or am I asking strangers to regulate my self-worth? Connection says, this is part of my experience. Emotional dependence says, tell me what this experience means about my value. Those can look similar from the outside, but they feel very different inside. Third, after I post, do I feel more integrated or more divided? Do you feel relieved because you express something true, or anxious because you have created another image that must now be maintained? Maya did eventually clean her apartment, but not that night. That night, she washed one cup, moved the clothes off her bed, and left the rest for the morning. She did not film it. She did not photograph the before and after. She did not write a caption about discipline, healing, or becoming a better version of herself. She simply made enough space to sleep. The room was still imperfect. Her life was still unfinished. But for the first time in a long time, there was no invisible audience in the room grading either one. And maybe that is what people who choose messy authenticity are really looking for. They are not giving up on growth. They are not celebrating chaos. They are not saying that effort, beauty, or ambition are fake. They are giving up the exhausting demand to look finished while they are still becoming. Because the opposite of authenticity is not beauty. It is division. It is being visible but never known, praised but never understood, followed but emotionally alone. So ask yourself one honest question. What part of your life are you tired of making look perfect? You do not have to publish the answer. You do not have to turn it into content, but you should be able to admit it somewhere, even if the first person you admit it to is yourself.